Hello, this is Daniel Raphael with Social Sustainability Lesson Number 5, Morality for a Socially Sustainable Civilization. I'm going to explain three terms that we're going to talk about several times during this lesson, and one is individual. Social entity. Social entity is any organization, community, society, association, agency, business, government, or other organization of any size, from the local to the district to the state to the regional, and sole proprietorship to a transnational corporation. This third one is a global entity. Global entity is any nation or association of nations. Introduction. You may recall in lesson number 4 that we said Earth's civilization has developed without a plan for sustaining itself. If we are going to develop a sustainable civilization, we will need a reliable, universally fair guide to make decisions. Building a sustainable global civilization is much like not much different than building a house. You decide to build a house. We need to decide to develop a socially sustainable civilization or not. Second, for a house you need architectural plans and engineering schedules and procedures. For building a socially sustainable civilization, we will need some kind of methodology that will give us predictable results. Third, we'll need building codes to guide the decision making to ensure that the house that we want is safe, durable, and livable. For a civilization, this means, one, we make a decision. Yes, we want to go ahead with social sustainability or not. Second, we have plans and procedures. Well, the plans and procedures for doing this are the three core values that are intrinsic to our species, and when it is combined with the schematic for social sustainability, it provides a methodology to fulfill the development of social sustainability. What is missing, though, for doing this work? We have the decision, we have the schematic for validating social sustainability, but we need a decision-making tool that guides the decision-making day by individuals, social entities, and global entities for building safe, durable, and livable communities and societies that are socially sustainable. What is needed is a moral code for decision-making to build a sustainable civilization, and that is the topic of today's lesson. Chapter 22, Moral Codes. What is a moral code? I've wondered that all my life. Basically, it is simply a decision-making tool, and it exists for three reasons. First is to guide individuals to make decisions for their social behavior. Two, it is used to guide decisions for social authorities like legal courts when individuals fail to make moral decisions. And third, and importantly, is to create a uniform method for maintaining social stability. Now, these words, social stability, we'll continue to talk about these through the lessons. Let me give you an example of a moral code that we use now. One person attacks another person and hurts them. First of all, the assailant failed to make a moral decision. Damages were done to the victim, but also damages were done to the social stability and social order of society. Two, because the individual failed to make a moral decision, it becomes the court's responsibility to make a decision on behalf of society to balance the wrong done to the victim and society. We're all familiar with this, aren't we? Almost too familiar. This is usually, righting the wrong is usually in the form of some type of punishment as given to the assailant. But here's the problem with that. We know as well that punishing the assailant does nothing to aid the victim, their family, or the community. Think about that. Send people away to prison, but it does nothing for the victim, their family, or the community. Punishment does not bring about a constructive outcome. Punishment does nothing proactively to support the social sustainability of anyone. Chapter 23, An History of Moral Codes. The first recorded moral code was written by, or written for, the Sumerian king Ur-Namur of Ur, 2100 BC. He preceded Hammurabi and Moses by several hundred years. And their three codes are very similar to what we use today, 4,000 years later. It is used to manage the social conduct of individual to individual behavior. These moral codes 4,000 years ago were never created for a global civilization that is being challenged with global, social, economic, and political problems. Chapter 24, Problems of the Old Morality. This old morality was simply developed for person-to-person morality, for personal decision-making for their social conduct. It was never designed for social entities or global entities. It was never designed to support a society that has decided to move towards social sustainability. Problem number two. The other side of problem number one is that there is no functional moral code for social entities and global entities. I just said that, I want to repeat it. There's no moral code for social entities or global entities, meaning organizations, corporations, or nations. It's just get along or fight. So there's no moral code for communities, societies, companies, associations, agencies, firms, corporations, governments, nations, or a global community of nations. And that's why we have so much difficulty at the United Nations itself, because there's no agreed upon method of coming to decision, moral decisions. Now here is the painful result for all of us. The result is that there is no motivation for social entities or global entities to proactively do good to individuals, other social entities, or global entities. Okay? There's nothing to guide them in their decision making. So without a universal code of morality to guide them in their behavior, the sustainability of environmentally sensitive ecological areas, the atmosphere, the earth, individuals, families, communities are at risk of social, economic, and environmental predation, meaning that they can be taken advantage of by these organizations. So you can conclude, I would conclude, that social stability as a moral social policy is not sufficient to prevent the disintegration of our global society and the degradation of our environment. Once more, as you can conclude, social stability as a moral social policy is not sufficient to prevent the disintegration of our global society and the degradation of our environment. Our old moral code must evolve, and it must evolve to do two things, not just one, social sustainability, but it must do two things. It must first ensure social sustainability, and second, it must move societies proactively towards social sustainability. Proactively, meaning that the decisions that these individual social entities and global entities makes help move the whole world socially towards social sustainability. What would an evolved morality as that look like? And that's the point here today. Chapter 25, A Morality for a Sustainable Global Civilization. Any morality that we propose for a civilization, that means a planet-wide body of people, anywhere, anytime, in any culture, any ethnicity, gender, or race, or nationality, has to be universally applicable to them and fair. So any morality we propose for a global civilization must be fair. That is, it must be universally applicable to all people, regardless of where they come from. To do that, I want you to think about this. To do that, it must be based on the core values that are intrinsic to our species, that have sustained our species and has helped us thrive and grow over tens of thousands of years. And we've studied these three core values in the previous 4 lessons, and they are quality of life, growth, and equality. People have striven for tens of thousands of years to have a better quality of life and to be able to grow, and that they would have the same opportunities and value for themselves as anybody else. So these three values that we have been talking about in the last 4 lessons become the core values for a morality that has the capability of sustaining individuals, families, communities, societies, nations, and our global civilization. What will be the result? The result will be social stability and moral sustainability. Okay? Social stability, moral sustainability. In other words, the 3 core values become the final arbiters for making moral decisions at 3 levels: the individual, social entity, and global entity. As you can see, there are 9 possible fields for making socially sustainable moral decisions. The individual can relate to another individual, social entity, or political or a global entity. And the same for social and global. And global can relate to another global entity, social entity, or individual. Moral decisions, 9 fields. Now, you might be saying, well, Daniel, why are you sharing this information with us? And that's because our old morality, the one that we've been stuck with for 4,000 years, has only one field, and that is person to person. It's been applied to other areas, but that's inappropriate. Chapter 26, the schematic for validating moral sustainability. The intention of a morality for a socially sustainable civilization is to preserve and sustain that civilization for not only 50, but 500 or 5,000 years and more. It must, along the way, make decisions that are supportive and proactive of the very nature of humans, of our species. As you can see from the schematic for validating moral sustainability, it is only slightly different from that of validating social sustainability. You'll note that the moral schematic does not have the word social in it, and that is because it has the capability of aiding moral decision making for both material and social issues. It provides a decision-making procedure that is universally applicable to every individual of every race, ethnicity, culture, nationality, and gender. It provides a fair and equitable means of making moral decisions that do not show preferences for financial, political, social, national, ethnic, racial, cultural, or religious positions. Chapter 27, a moral decision-making tool. For a society or nation or in civilization to last 5,000 years, some very serious decisions have had to be made along the way. When everything is fine, or if everybody assumes everything is fine, then few decisions are going to be made. But when serious decisions need to be made, they have to be made when there are serious problems. So when you are aware that there are serious problems occurring in your world, in your life, then you want to have a means that can address them appropriately. Decisions that have the outcome of helping everyone, helping you personally, and your family and society and your community move into a future. Let me refresh your memory about Earth's dilemma just to remind you of the situation that our Earth is in right now. Earth's dilemma and solution. Earth's civilization has developed without a plan for sustaining itself. Numerous global civilization-threatening problems have developed that endanger our civilization's continued existence. Food and water shortages, limited arable land, overpopulation, natural resource limitations, economic instability, militarism, and political instability, to name only a few. So there will be decisions made about this, and what guides will we use? Futurists, scientists, and historians agree that Earth's civilization, as it exists and as it grows larger, is unsustainable, and that its decline is inevitable and it appears imminent. What this means is that those serious problems that we're going to have to make serious decisions about are in our near future. Further, these problems are so complex, so pervasive, and so huge in scope as to be unsolvable by any one government, nation, or combination of nations, even if those problems were identified and the solutions were obvious. That must make you wonder. Well, it did me too, until I thought about it. Political decision-taking, power, authority, control conflicts, resource acquisition and allocation conflicts between political parties, nations, and large corporations, and combined with public melees, will prevent timely action to alleviate the problems. So, if you're thinking ahead, good, because you're seeing that large organizations, nations, from the state to the nation to groups of nations, will not be engaging these social problems. They're more interested in political problems, international problems, and military problems. As you can conclude, we as individuals, communities, and societies will have to make some very serious decisions that may mean the difference of life or death for individuals, communities, and nations. Those decisions, if you're going to make those decisions, for example, you would want them to be defensible, rational, and fair. Decisions that make sense to everyone, even though the consequences may be very severe. Decisions that would be supported even by those who make the ultimate sacrifice for their family or community. Ask yourself, why do individuals sometimes sacrifice their life to save others? It's because that individual used the equation of sustainable morality and chose to save the larger group by putting their life in jeopardy. Chapter 28, Morality for Sustainable Democracies. Here are some questions that will need to be answered by any democratic society that has chosen to move towards social sustainability. And this question has been asked for decades, and now there's an answer to it. 1, does the exercise of political rights create a moral violation of social sustainability? I'll give you some examples. When does free speech violate the morality of social sustainability? And on the other hand, what are the socially sustainable moral responsibilities and obligations of society regarding the right to publish pornography? Example 2. When does the right to bear arms violate the morality of social sustainability? That is, what are the socially sustainable moral responsibility and obligations of society regarding the right to bear arms? And here are the answers. Whenever the expression of these rights negatively affects the quality of life of an individual, family, society, or national entity. Whenever the expression of these rights negatively affects the capacity of growth of an individual, family, community, social entity, or global entity. Or whenever the expression of these rights diminishes or increases the equal value of an individual, family, social entity, or global entity. That means if the expression of that right diminishes or increases the preference of an individual, family, or social entity, then that is a moral violation of social sustainability. Now remember that there are 9 fields of socially sustainable moral decisions. When you think about these moral decisions concerning our political rights, you have 9 fields to address. The morality of social sustainability has 9 configurations for the application and interpretation of morality compared to only 1 configuration for our traditional moral code. That would lead us to have all moral issues more clearly defined than our old moral code. The morality of social sustainability already takes into account the political rights and social sustainability moral responsibilities and obligations of the victim, the wrongdoer, and society. That's immense. This morality of social sustainability takes into account the political rights and socially sustainable moral responsibilities and obligations of the victim, wrongdoer, and society. Consider how the schematic for validating moral sustainability could be used to argue the case for a socially sustainable morality to balance the right to bear arms by the assailants of the shootings at the Aurora, Colorado Theater and Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. This process could be used and applied to those situations. Consider the same discussion and decision-making process for publishing pornography. How does it affect the three core values of the individual, social entities, and global entities to maintain social sustainability and social stability? Until now, society has not had a way to balance political rights of individuals with its moral responsibilities and obligations to protect and sustain its citizens. Until now, society has not had a way to balance political rights of individuals with its moral responsibilities and obligations to protect and sustain its citizens. If these lessons have raised your curiosity about how they could be applied to difficult situations in your community, then consider them to be a call to action. And remember, individuals, that solutions to community and global social problems, as we are witnessing, will not be solved by state or national governments or international bodies. Who will do it? You. They will only be solved by you, millions of you, in thousands of local communities who have raised their consciousness and have taken the initiative to bring about the conscious evolution of our world. And now you have the means to do it. These 5 lessons have provided you with the means to make moral decisions and sustainable decisions concerning yourself, your family, your community, your nation, and the world. As you think about these 5 lessons, I ask you to think about these 2 things. If you think this material is important, then please put this YouTube link on your face page. Number 1, if you think this material is important, then please put this YouTube link on your Facebook page and ask others to click on share. Second, if you would like more information about lessons 1 through 4, and particularly lesson number 5, please contact me. My contact information is at the end of each of these lessons. And here's the last consideration concerning sustainability for democracies. There are many nations in the world which are going through the stages of democratic development. Now they have a means to avoid decades of struggle that the United States and other developed democracies have gone through. The democracies in the Middle America and South America have a means of shaving decades off their maturity, socially and democratically, as they move forward using the processes I've discovered and have described. Have questions? Please contact me. Thank you very much.